support. I'm going to let you go now. Bring in my guest for this hour, criminal defense attorney Lara Yeretsian. Lara, great to see you again. Thanks for being on the show.
Good to see you too, Michael.
All right, so let's start off and talk about these protests going on outside that are planned, of course, throughout the trial. A number of potential jurors have talked about the fact that they were concerned if it came to the wrong result, if the jury came to the wrong result, there could be ramifications. And I would imagine the protests outside don't help. What kind of effect do you think those types of protests are going to have on not only potential jurors, but ultimately the jury that's seated for this trial?
Obviously, we want a jury that's not going to be afraid to decide, regardless of which way they end up going. And anything that could impact their ability to decide the case based on the facts should be kept away from these jurors. So if that means, protesters have the right to protest. And that's their right. But if there's a way to get the jurors into the building through the back door, for example, which is something that it sounds like they're doing, that would be great. I think any judge and a prosecutor and a defense counsel would have to ensure that a juror who is picked on this jury is not going to be impacted by what's going on outside of the courthouse, is not going to be the kind of juror who's going to be afraid to make a decision based on what could happen to him or her once they walk out of the courthouse after a verdict or an acquittal. The juror who's going to be selected has to be a juror that decides the case without fear, without that kind of pressure, and without allowing any of that get to him. Again, we can't stop people from protesting. They have a right to protest, but there's ways of, protecting the jurors and getting them to the courthouse without being exposed to some of these, some of the protests or the protesters.
Yeah, and as you said, even if they are exposed to it, you want to find jurors who are going to do the right thing anyway, what they believe is the right thing. There are a number of issues. There are a number of issues here, Lara. There's race, there's the law regarding citizens' arrest. You have gun rights issues. You have community protection issues, a lot of different issues. As a defense attorney in this case, which one of those takes precedence when you're talking to these jurors and you're trying to get a sense from them about how they feel about different things? Which issues are the most important that you're looking for?
There's a lot of important issues. You would want a juror who is not going to only be impacted or focused on one issue, for example, not just race. The jurors have to approach this as people who are going to determine what the facts are, and based on the facts that they decide are the true facts, apply the law in a just manner and give us a fair trial. You're looking at jurors who are going to be fair, regardless of what the issues are. Yes, you're going to want jurors who, if you're on the defense, obviously, it depends on which group you're looking at. If you're the defense attorney, you're going to want jurors who are going to be sensitive, obviously, to some extent to the race issue, but who are going to be neutral and unbiased and are going to be able to decide the case on what's presented. Because we don't want to come back later and have anyone attack the validity of whether it be an acquittal or a verdict because of issues with a juror, which is something which we've seen a lot in many, many cases.
Yeah, and I think the judge has been given a lot of discretion in terms of granting some of the strikes for cause for that very reason, rather than err on the side of, maybe we let this guy in and there's a problem, or we let this person in, there's a problem. I'll just let them go and we'll just move forward. We'll find our jurors. There has been some suggestion by some of the supporters of the Arbery family that this thing has been drawn out over 10 days, or now it's going into the 11th day tomorrow. And again, we're expecting to have a jury tomorrow, that this benefits the defense in some way, that they're the ones dragging this out. Do you find that that's possible? And if so, what benefit would it have the defense to drag this thing out?
The only benefit that I can see for dragging this on is if the defense attorneys are trying to basically figure out who are the best jurors. And the only way to do that is honestly by asking a lot of questions and figuring out if they've got the right jurors. For example, if you're on the defense, you want someone who believes in gun rights, and you want someone who believes in this citizen's arrest concept that obviously they already have. It's the law there. but also believes, I don't want to call it vigilantism, but that citizens have the right to chase and maybe get to the point of using this kind of force. So they're looking for specific type of juror, and that could take a while because sometimes it's hard to find jurors who have an agenda, who pretend to be these great jurors, but in reality have an agenda. So I don't really see any real tactical benefit in intentionally delaying things. I think the delay is just part and parcel of any trial in picking a jury.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And I think if there was any sense of delay, that would be just because, Lara, they were trying to get as many folks removed for cause as they could. If they had any doubt at all about someone, rather than use their peremptory strikes in the next round, they were making an objection and getting the arguments out to see if they could get them removed for cause. There was nothing to lose there, so I don't think they were necessarily seeking to delay things, but they were just, like you said, doing their job, trying to find the right jurors. All right, Lara, stand by. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, it was